Do you think ghosts only exist in movies or children's stories? Think again, my friend, because what you are about to read is not cheap fiction or an overactive imagination at work. These are real experiences, the kind that make you question everything you thought you knew. I used to laugh at these stories too until something happened to me that I can't explain. Something that made me look at the shadows in my house as if they were hiding a secret. And I am not alone. People like you and me have felt that unexplainable chill, heard that whisper that shouldn't be there. Do you dare to find out if you're next? I know what you're thinking. Sure, it's just exaggeration. Nobody goes through such strange things. But here's the crazy part. You don't need haunted castles or dark cemeteries for terror to find you. It can be in your living room, on your phone, in the mirror you look at every day. These 3 stories, yes, only 3, but trust me, one is enough to keep you up at night, are from ordinary people who stumbled upon the impossible and lived to tell about it. Or so they think. If you ever felt a chill for no reason or heard something you couldn't identify, this will hit you hard, because you won't just be reading. You'll start suspecting your own home. There are no cheap tricks or happy endings here. This is raw, real, and will leave you an uncomfortable question. What if this is already happening to you and you just haven't noticed? Keep reading, my friend, and in minutes you'll see why some things shouldn't be ignored. I'm giving you the tools to recognize them, to keep your sanity when the silence speaks louder than it should. Are you ready to open your eyes to what is living with you unseen? The first whisper in the dark, imagine you are home alone, my friend, and suddenly you hear a faint whisper, like someone breathing right behind you. That's what happened to Juan, an ordinary guy living in an old apartment on the outskirts of the city. He wasn't the type to believe in ghosts, but that night, something changed. The sound wasn't coming from the street or the pipes. It was coming from an empty corner of his living room. The strangest part? When he tried to record with his phone, the battery instantly died, as if something didn't want evidence. Fear, doesn't always need a monster. Sometimes the unexplained is enough. Juan thought it was just his imagination, like we all do when something weird happens, right? But the next morning, while having coffee, he noticed things were off. A mug teetering on the edge of the table, a chair facing the wall. It wasn't much, but enough to make his stomach knot. A friend once told me that real terror begins when you start doubting yourself, and Juan started wondering if he was losing it, or if something was watching from the shadows. If this happens to you, take note of what you see, every detail. It may seem silly, but it keeps you grounded. And what if it's not your mind playing tricks? That night, the whisper returned, clearer this time, like a voice saying his name. Juan. There was no one there, but the air felt heavy, like someone was inches away. He turned on all the lights, because, come on, who wouldn't when they're scared? But the feeling didn't go away. It grew, as if the darkness was mocking his efforts. My friend, some things you don't see with your eyes, but with that instinct that makes your hair stand on end. Juan didn't know what to do, but deep down, he knew he wasn't alone, and it was only beginning. Imagine walking down the street at night, that bone-chilling cold creeping in, and suddenly you feel like someone is following you. But when you turn around, no one is there. That hit me a few months ago. Coming home from work through an alley I usually avoided, but that night I had no choice. At first, it was just a feeling, that tingling on your neck, screaming run. Then I saw it. A long shadow on the wall, moving slowly as if studying me. The craziest part? No one was casting it. The streetlight was steady, and I was alone, or so I thought. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was nerves, that my mind plays dirty tricks after a long day. But when I got home, it got worse. I unlocked the door, and I swear I heard footsteps behind me, like whatever was across the threshold too. I peeked out the window, and there was again that shadow, standing still in the yard, but shapeless, like a black stain that didn't belong. If this happens to you, my friend, try leaving a light on or even speaking out loud. Sometimes, breaking the silence tricks the fear. However, let's be honest, it doesn't always work. That night, I didn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, it felt closer. At dawn, I got brave and checked the yard. Nothing, no tracks, no fallen branches to explain it. But ever since then, I see it out of the corner of my eye, in the mirror in a corner, like it marked me. The real terror, I tell you, isn't an attack. It's knowing something has chosen you and you don't know why. What would you do if it followed you relentlessly? Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like something was off, like the person staring back at you wasn't quite you? It happened to me one early morning while getting water. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror from the corner of my eye. I didn't think much of it, but something pulled me back. My eyes in the mirror were fixed, unblinking. Even though I was blinking, it was just a split second. But my heart stopped. It felt like it wanted me to notice. I turned off the light quickly. Because come on, who sticks around to investigate at 3 a.m.? The next day, I convinced myself it was sleepiness or dim lighting playing tricks, but I couldn't shake that image. I went back to mirror, phone in hand to record, because if something weird happened, I wanted proof. Everything seemed fine until I noticed. My reflection gave a faint smile, but I didn't. If this ever happens to you, my friend, do what I did. Step away. Take a deep breath. Don't get obsessed with staring. Sometimes paying attention invites it in. The problem is, I couldn't stop looking. That night, I woke up drenched in sweat, feeling washed as I slept. I went back to the bathroom, and there it was, my reflection head slightly tilted, studying me. It said nothing, just stared, and I closed my eyes, counted to 10, hoping it would disappear. When I opened them, it looked normal, but now I avoid mirrors at night. What if it wasn't just my mind, but something slipping into my life? Have you ever heard a noise at home and thought, just the wind, but deep down, you knew it wasn't? A few weeks ago, I was alone in my apartment when I heard a soft thud, like something brushing against the basement door. I live in an old building, and that door is always locked. No one uses it, not even the landlord. I got closer, because I'm the type who can't ignore a mystery, and while I stood there, another thud, slow, as if something wanted out. No storm, no explanation, just a cold that felt wrong. I thought about opening it, of course, but something screamed, don't. That instinct that keeps you out of trouble. Instead, I leaned a chair against it, just in case, and tried to sleep, but I couldn't. The next day, I checked. The lock was fine, but the chair was a foot away, as if something had moved it silently. If this happens to you, my friend, trust your gut. Sometimes, not opening a door is the smart choice. But what if whatever's on the other side doesn't need you to let in? Since then, every night I hear those thuds, weaker but constant, like a message I don't understand. Once, I recorded, and on playback, I caught a faint whisper, almost inaudible, "Let me in." I don't know what to do. Ignoring it doesn't stop it, and facing it scares me senseless. The real terror is when whatever's there starts to feel a home. The message I never sent, have you ever felt like your phone was acting strange, as if it had a mind of its own? One night, I was texting a friend when my phone vibrated on its own, with no notifications. I checked, and there was a message in my own chat from me that I never typed. "I'm here." I froze. Because not only did I not write it, but the timestamp read 2:13 a.m. when I was sound asleep. I thought it was just a glitch, but something told me it wasn't that simple, you know? I told my friend, and he half-jokingly said I should check my app history, as if that would solve anything. I did. Nothing weird showed up, but that night, another message appeared, the same words, while my phone was turned off. If this happens to you, my friend, do what I did. Shut everything down. turn off the Wi-Fi, keep it far away. Sometimes cutting the connection calms you down. Though, honestly, that doesn't erase the feeling that someone is speaking through your things. Now, I don't touch my phone at night. Every buzz makes me paranoid. Once, I recorded my screen while I slept, and at one point, the phone turned on by itself, displaying the same message repeatedly. The terror isn't just that it happens. It's wondering who is behind it and why they know so much about you. What would you do if your own devices turned against you? Have you ever been at home, calm, when a light started flickering for no reason? A few weeks ago, I was watching TV when the ceiling lamp flickered. Softly at first, then like someone was playing with a switch. I figured it was an electrical issue, old house and all. But when I checked, the switch was off, yet the light was still on. I stood there, watching, and I felt a strange chill, like the air had stopped moving. I don't scare easily, but this gave me bad vibes. The next day, I called an electrician, because let's be real, you don't mess with wiring, right? The guy checked everything and said it was fine, no problems at all. That night, the flickering came back faster, like some kind of code I couldn't understand. If this happens to you, my friend, try switching rooms, stepping outside. Sometimes getting out of the space helps. But when I came back, the light was on, even though I had left it off. I can't explain it, but I don't feel alone when that light acts up. Once, I saw a shadow dart across the wall, just as the flickering stopped, though I was completely alone. The real fear isn't noises or figures. It's the feeling that something is testing you, waiting for your reaction. And what if it wants your attention? Have you ever had a dream so real that you weren't sure if it actually happened? One night, I dreamed I was in my room, pitch black, with a figure at the foot of my bed, just watching. It didn't move, didn't speak, but I could feel its eyes on me, like it had known me forever. I woke up drenched in sweat, heart racing, and my blanket was on the floor like I had thrashed around. I brushed it off as a nightmare. Everyone has weird dreams, right? But the next morning, while having coffee, I remembered. In the dream, the figure pointed at my window, and when I looked, the curtains were open, even though I had closed them before bed. If this happens to you, my friend, write down these strange dreams. Seeing them on paper helps separate the real from the imagined. Still, that doesn't explain why I now feel watched as I sleep. That night, the same dream. The figure, the stare, the silence. But this time, I woke up with a faint scratch on my arm that wasn't there before. The terror isn't just a dream. It's wondering if something is slipping into your mind while you're defenseless. What would you do if your night started blending with something you couldn't control? Have you ever heard something in your home that made no sense, like footsteps where no one should be? One night, while reading on my couch, I heard a loud creak, like someone was walking up the stairs. I live on the ground floor, only the roof above me, so it couldn't be a neighbor. I froze, listening, and it happened again, slow, deliberate footsteps, like someone pacing back and forth. I turned up the TV volume, because, let's be honest, sometimes tricking yourself helps, but it didn't stop. I thought about checking the roof, but it was late, and honestly, I didn't want to find anything strange. The next day, I stepped on the balcony and looked up. No fallen branches, no animals, nothing that could explain it. If this happens to you, my friend, try leaving a recorder on, not to capture a ghost, just to know if you're imagining it. That night, I did just that, and on playback, I heard the footsteps in a whisper I hadn't heard live. Something like, "Come down." Now, I avoid my living room alone at night. The noises return at the same time, like clockwork. The fear isn't just hearing it. It's knowing that whatever is up there knows I can hear it. And what if one day it decides to come down? Have you ever checked your phone and found something you don't remember doing? A few days ago, scrolling to my gallery, I found a photo that sent chills down my spine. My living room at night, taken from a high angle like from the ceiling. I didn't take it. And worse, there was a faint shadow in the corner, one that didn't match anything in my house. I thought someone had used my phone, but it had been locked all day and I live alone. So how did it get there? I tried deleting it. Who keeps something that creepy, right? But the next day it was back, as if my phone wouldn't let it go. I showed a friend, and he half-jokingly said it looked like a memory of something I hadn't noticed. If this happens to you, my friend, back up your files and reset your device. Sometimes a technical fix can ease the paranoia. But that doesn't explain why I now feel watched from that angle. That night, I left my phone recorded while I slept out of morbid curiosity, and the video was clean, except for one frame. The same photo, taken at that exact moment. The terror isn't just seeing, it's wondering who or what is behind the camera when you're not looking. Have you ever felt a silence so deep it felt alive? One night, lying in bed, everything turned off, I noticed something odd. No background noise, no hum of the fridge, no distant cars, nothing. It was like the world had stopped, and in that void, I swear I heard my name, clear as day, but without a voice echoing inside my head. I jumped up, turned on the light, because come on, who stays calm after that? But the feeling lingered. The silence returned, heavier, like it was waiting for me. I thought I was just imagining things, my mind messing with me half asleep, you know? But the next morning, having breakfast, it happened again, everything went mute, and my name came through louder like it was right in the room. If this happens to you, my friend, play some music or talk out loud. Breaking the silence might pull you out of it. But I'm not sure that works when whatever's. Calling doesn't need sound to reach you. Now, I avoid being alone in total silence. Every time it happens, it feels closer. One time, I recorded and playback had nothing, but I felt it. My name whispered in that deafening quiet. The real fear isn't hearing it. It's knowing something is hunting you in the silence.